Her body was burning with heat as strong as volcanic lava, and the only one who could save her was the man before her. She clung tightly to the cold marble-like skin, her survival instinct eventually making her give up all resistance. Pain was accompanied by pleasure slowly rising bit by bit, like a firework display going off in her mind, making her feel like she was a lone boat in a sea of fire. Rising, then sinking, it was hard for her to free herself. "Hey, wake up! It's cold here, don't catch a cold." The pressure on her shoulders caused Ning Xi to wake up abruptly, her disoriented gaze met with the concerned eyes of the nurse. In an instant, her guilty conscience made her face blush. She wished she could crawl into a hole in the ground as she avoided the nurse's gaze in shame. Damn, although it has already been such a long time after that one drunken night, that hot night she had with Suyan kept appearing in her dreams from time to time. Thanks to being drunk to the point of unconsciousness, she did not have much memory of that night, otherwise she would not know how to face Yan Gaig. The nurse saw that she had finally woken up, and passed the papers in her hands to her. "You forgot to take your pregnancy health results. Dr. Zhang would like you to come again next week." Ning Xi received the report, smiled sweetly, and carefully placed the papers in her own purse. Suyan was still studying overseas, he was coming back tonight. Thinking of the meeting tonight, Ning Xi unconsciously tensed up. Because the area Suyan was at was too inaccessible, it was only until the child was more than 7 months old that she finally contacted him. Thinking of the shock that Suyan had when he found out she was pregnant, Ning Xi was a little nervous. Was it because she was particularly sensitive due to the pregnancy? Ning Xi felt that Suyan was not as happy as she was about this. The doctor reassured her saying that men were always like that with their first child, their mentality would take some time to change. But it couldn't be that, even regarding marriage, she would have to be the one to speak up. The sun was burning brightly in the sky when she came out of the hospital. Ning Xi struggled to support her waist. Just as she was about to wave down a taxi, a dazzling red sports car rushed towards her. Ning Xi's heart thumped, and she retreated quite a few steps back. Only to hear a screeching sound from the brakes, as the red sports car just brushed over the edge of her clothes, before stopping abruptly. Ning Xi's heart almost stopped. After slowly regaining her footing, she saw a woman, wearing a body-hugging red dress, toss her wavy hair as she stepped down from the car. "Ning Swallow, are you crazy?" Ning Swallow looked at her, laughing with deep meaning. With crossed arms, as if strutting on the catwalk, she swayed as she walked until she stood in front of Ning Xi. Using the advantage of her high heels, she arrogantly looked down on the big-bellied Ning Xi. "What, scared that I'll kill the bastard in your stomach?" Ning Xi subconsciously protected her abdomen. Taking a step back, she looked at her warily. "Ning Swallow, don't you go too far." Despite knowing that Ning Swallow had always been at loggerheads with her, Ning Xi had not thought that she could speak such vicious words. "Going too far? You're the one who went too far. After getting drunk and doing it with some wild man and getting pregnant, then trying to make Suyan become the father, tisk tisk. Ning Xi, aren't you so shameless?" Ning Xi froze. "What nonsense are you saying? Hey, don't tell me you really believe that the man who slept with you that night was Suyan?" Ning Swallow laughed before leaning back, saying that you grew up with Suyan since you were kids with every other sentence, saying that you're childhood sweethearts, and you don't even know what his figure is like. Ning Xi grew paler as she listened. Despite standing under intense sunlight, her whole body felt cold. Yes, the man from that night. She had only thought Suyan was fitter than she had imagined after growing up. Now with Ning Swallow's malicious reminder, she then suddenly recalled that, other than the body, the man from that night was indeed very different from Silyan. TL note. Gaig, an affectionate term from a girl, to an older guy she has a romantic interest in. She is very obviously trying to get close to a guy if she uses this in front of him. It could also be shortened to just G. The literal meaning is older brother. Think oppa in Korean. The subtlety was hard to translate, so I'll be leaving in its original form. I'll just tell it to you straight. That night you drank the wine that I added a little something to, and out of goodwill, I found 2 brawny men for you so that you could fully satisfy your desire. Who knew that you would be so insensible? You actually entered some wild man's room, and even unceremoniously. Ning Xi's tone was full of disgust. Yan Gaig is too kind-hearted, he was afraid that you wouldn't be able to accept the truth, so he said that it was him that night. You. Ning Xi was trembling with anger, listening up to here. She could no longer hold back and grabbed Ning Xi's wrist. Why would you do that to me? Why? Haven't you harmed me enough? Ning Xi had her eyebrows raised in anger at first, and was about to push Ning Xi away, but she caught sight of Silyan standing behind Ning Xi. She immediately softened her voice, showing off a delicate and pitiful expression. Older sister, I know I was wrong. If you want to beat and scold someone, then do it towards me, don't blame Yan Gaig. Ning Xi froze, and in the next second, she saw Ning Xi suddenly fall to the ground. That pose was as if she had pushed her. Ning Xi, what did you do? A scolding voice sounded from behind her. Ning Xi turned in surprise, and saw Silyan with a cold expression. Silyan brushed past her, and supported Ning Xi up. Xi, are you okay? Ning Xi was practically hanging her entire body on Silyan. Yan Gaig, I didn't do it on purpose, I know I'm in the wrong. I'm the one who should be sorry to sister for causing all this. That's enough, I'll settle everything. Silyan patted Ning Xi's shoulders, letting her enter the car. I'll explain everything to Ning Xi. Ning Xi's mind was completely blank. She watched Silyan walk towards her, and watched his mouth open and close. He talked for a long time. He spoke of their time together as childhood sweethearts, of his struggle when he fell in love with Ning Xi, of his anger when he found out that Ning Xi had plotted against her, of his shock and guilt when he found out that Ning Xi was pregnant. He spoke of how he had accepted Ning Xi's apology. Finally, he said, Ning Xi, I'm sorry, I can't marry you. It's not because of the matter of that night or this child, but it's because I can't let Xi down, and I don't want to deceive myself and my feelings. These few months, he had been taking Ning Xi with him overseas, and after getting along together day and night, it was even harder to separate. Even though he had admitted that he was the one who had relations with Ning Xi that night for the sake of covering up her pain, in his heart, he had already chosen Ning Xi. So after knowing that Ning Xi was pregnant, he could not bear it any longer and immediately went to the Ning family to explain everything to their parents, and to reveal the truth to Ning Xi. Then, Silyan, you knew all along that it was Ning Xi who drugged me to ruin my innocence for the sake of protecting her. You told me that it was you that night. The Ning Xi that had finally recovered her voice, looked at the cool and calm Silyan as if her soul had escaped from her body. Ning Xi, Xi did not do it on purpose, she's still young, and impulsive. Then what about me? Ning Xi raised her head to look at Silyan, face full of despair. Did you ever think of me? Not even for a little bit. Silyan did not speak, and after a long while, he reached out to Ning Xi. The sun is too bright here, let us go home first. Don't touch me. Ning Xi pushed away Silyan's hands, and suddenly started laughing loudly. Living up to now, Ning Xi felt that her life was like a joke. In order to live in the same city as Su Yan, she had put all her strength in her studies so she could get into B University. In order to please Su Yan, she had given her dream of acting. In order to match his upbringing and family background, she had abandoned her adoptive parents to return to the Ning family, clumsily trying to please those so-called distinguished figures. In the end, what she received in return was one sentence: "I can't let Swallow down." Ning Swallow had stolen not only her identity, and her biological parents, but now she had even stolen away her sweetheart. Ning Swallow was still young, so her mistakes could be forgiven. Then who would take responsibility for her life? She didn't even know who the man from that night was. Ning Xi covered her face, body shaking fiercely. She was already in the depths of despair. Su Yan watched Ning Xi walk towards the road unthinkingly, as if in a trance. He threw away the cigarette he was grasping between his fingers, and was about to chase after her, but was held back by Ning Swallow, who held onto his sleeve from behind. "Yan Gaig, where are you going?" And in the instant Su Yan was hesitating, a loud noise rang out. Ning Xi, who had been walking on the zebra crossing, was thrown into the air, landing heavily on the ground. "Help! Help! A pregnant woman was hit." In the glaring light, Ning Xi saw shaking silhouettes and the two faces that made her nauseous. The cramping pain that came from her belly caused her to lose consciousness bit by bit. She only blinked her eyes once, and the fresh blood on her forehead flowed into her eyes. The world fell into darkness.